Hello, welcome to the Assist Financial demonstration. Today we're going to spend time looking at the different financial modules. Under the Financial tab, each little tab where you see General Ledger, Accounts Payable, Purchase Order, Payroll, these are all different integrated modules that your organization can pick and choose from. The look and feel of every application is the same. The way our menus are set up are things you do on a daily basis or under the Daily tab. Things you do more of a once a month, once a year, those items are under the Periodic tab. We also have a separate tab for reports, and we'll take a look at these, but you can print a report for any period. The system keeps unlimited history. We're going to also look at how you can print any report to the screen. You can email it. You can put it in Word or Excel. We'll also take a look at the inquiries. You're able to search all your funds, unlimited history, and we'll take a look at how we can drill down to the source. And the source would be things coming in from payroll, from utilities, from courts, and we'll take a look at how easy it is to drill down to the detail. The last tab is something called Tables, and we'll take a look at this as well. This is where you set up your system. You define your chart of accounts, your special rules. So we'll take a look at that as well. Now, let's go to journal entries. Let's take a look at where you would enter in a journal entry in the system. All of these fields are searchable. So if you know a little bit about the transaction, you can look it up. If you know the dollar amount, the date, a description. So the system supports partial searches. This is the screen that you're going to go to create a journal entry. This is the only time you have to debit and credit. If you look at the toolbar, it's like any other Microsoft product, so it's really easy to navigate. The icons mean the same thing. You can also log a support call right in the software. You simply say help, and the system's going to prompt you for a question. You can say call me or email me. This is one easy way to get help on the software. In addition, you can go to our website and get into a chat queue. So if you've got a quick question, you can get a quick answer. You can also call us and we call you back. A couple of key things about entering in a journal entry is, one thing, debits and credits have to equal. We're not going to let you get out of balance. You can also post a transaction to any period. You've got the ability to go back in time. You can also lock it down where you can't post, so you're in the driver's seat. Another really nice feature is with our system, you can open a fiscal year, close a fiscal year as often as you need to. So let's say your year ends June 30th, July 5th, you can go ahead and close the year. When your auditors come on site, you can reopen that previously closed year. So it carries the changes forward. So once again, it's more flexible on allowing you to move forward. Now, we also have an integrated project accounting. A project can be anything. You're able to track costs over the life of the project. You don't have to code the projects into your chart of accounts. You can simply pick any distribution and send it to the project accounting. Projects work with journals, our purchase orders, payables, even payroll time can be charged off to a project. So it's a nice place to accumulate cost over time without having to set it up in your chart of accounts. All of our transactions allow you to do recurring entries. These are entries that you can define the debits and credits, and all you're going to have to do is enter in the new amounts, but it remembers the accounting. Your recurring journal entries can also hit projects. And we'll take a look at this in purchase orders and also in payables. Now, on our system, you can look at things before you post. You can look at things after you post. For instance, you may want to look at, let's say, something that came in from, let's say, utility billing. So I want to look at these specific entries. I could be very specific, a certain period, a certain date range, or even by a certain user. And I can see the accounting entries that were created coming in from utility billing. So this will be true for payroll, for business license, everything that's going to be updating the GL. Now, under periodic, this is where you're going to do things like create your budget, close your year. We do have the ability to create your budget in the general ledger. We also have an option, if you like to use Excel, where you can export your budget to Excel. And so what you can do, you can export for multiple years. You can export certain parts of your organization or even certain types of accounts. I'm going to go ahead and just export everything to Excel so I can begin the budgeting process. I'm going to click the option, let's go right to Excel. And it's created a workbook and it exported out, in my case, all my accounts. I've got the budget, I've got year-to-date actual, I'm in the middle of the year, so I've got projected actuals and a breakdown by period so that I can look at historical information to create the final budget. So you'll go through the process in Excel to create your budget, but once you have the final product, you can simply import to the accounting system. So you're not having to rekey in the budget figures, you simply just bring it in. We also have an option if you add a new account in Excel during budgeting, you can bring it in and add it to your chart of accounts. So the key thing is, once you get your budget into the system, when you run the financials or you look up an account, you can see the budget comparison. So you're going to always know, am I within the budget? When we look at accounts payable, you can even enter in a payable and get a warning if you're over your budget. Now, other things you might do, one is you might make changes to your budget in the middle of the year. So this allows you to track those changes. Our financial reports can be ran for the original budget or the revised budget. And we also have a report that picks up all the changes that you've made so that you can see the actual, the revised budget compared to the original budget. Other things you might do here is we have an option to close the year. Once again, you can easily reopen the year, but we make it very simple to close the year. We do have the ability to reverse an entry. And as I mentioned, whenever you see a chat box like this, all of these fields are available to search. So if you know the dollar amount, if you know the time period, I'm going to search based on, I'm looking for something, let's say that's coming in from payroll. I want to reverse a payroll entry. And I'm going to grab this one. If this is the one that I want to reverse, the only thing I need to do is hit post. It makes the offsetting entry. So there's a complete audit trail. So it is really easy to reverse something that you've already posted. Let's take a look at some of the reports. These reports come standard. You've got reports that you can look at if you use our purchase order module. You're going to see not only budget, you're going to see the balance and if there's any outstanding purchase orders. And then once again, remaining percent of budget. All of our reports you can pull out based on how you've defined your chart accounts. For instance, if I want to pull out a report just for a certain fund or a certain department, I can do that. Everything's in one database. And as I mentioned earlier, I can publish this in Word or drop it to Excel. I can email this report. So all the reports have that capability. We do have combining balance sheets. You can run out a detailed general ledger report. You can pull it out by department, by account. We also have this report that you would probably run for your council. You can run it for the revised budget or original budget if you want a comparison. And as I mentioned, once you define your chart of accounts, you can slice out maybe just, let's look at just the general fund or a range of funds. I can include and exclude. And it's going to take you right to the screen where you can see the percent remaining. Now, the inquiries, we do have lots of really good inquiries. You can look up if maybe the only thing you know is that you're looking for a journal entry that's $25. Now, granted, if you know when or where it came from or how much, but I'm just going to look for a needle in a haystack. I just know the dollar amount. And it's going to bring up all the entries that meet that criteria. I'm going to go ahead and select this one. Now notice what it did. It brings the screen. If I want to, I can print that journal. And I've got all the accounting, and I even know if it's going to projects. I can also drill down to the detail. And I can see the information from accounts payable. So it's really easy to search the database. And once again, we're searching all funds. So I'm not having to go into different companies. It's all in one database. Let's take a look at this search. Once again, I can go to any year. I'm going to right-click, and let's say that I'm looking for a revenue account. Now, if I knew more, I would certainly like the name of the fund or part of the account number, and I'm going to go look up the water revenue. And we'll take a look at some detail in how the transactions from utility billing post into the general ledger. Let's look at water sales. And as you can see here, I'm going to go into April and I'm going to get some detail. And this is the journal that was created. I can click again and I can see all the accounting distributions. Because the source is utility, I can hit display source. And these are the customers that make up that interface. So I really have that detail to look at and how it comes into the GL. So this is the same for tax and payroll. So those modules that post into the general ledger, you can get to the detail. Another inquiry is you can start at the highest level, which will be your funds. I only have two. You can have unlimited. You can also select and go down to the next tier, which in my case happens to be department. And I can look at budget, balance, year-to-date activity. I can even come up here and look at revenue, expenses. But I'm going to drill down to administration. And let's go down here and let's take a look. Oh, let's look at this payroll entry. And once again, here is how payroll posted in, and the source is payroll. I'm going to hit display source, and I've got the particular employees that made up that interface. So once again, it's easy to get to the information. We have an inquiry here that this allows you once again to bring up any account and see the balance, the budget comparison, so lots of good inquiries. Tables, this is where you get started. Let's take a look at where you set up your chart of accounts. This is probably the most important decision you're going to make. This is where you define how many segments, what do you want to call it. If you notice, I'm only using 3. You can have up to 9. Each segment can be as long as you want. I can also pull out a report based on any segment. Other things you might do here is you might, create your chart of accounts, set up your recurring journal entries. One other thing I wanted to show you on the financial side is we also have a tool called Report Excellence. And this is designed for accounts that maybe you've got a special board and they like to see their financials in a certain format. If you add this option, you can create any financial in Excel once, but you can link it to the accounting software. So each month, as the balances change, you're just downloading the new numbers and it directly links to that workbook that you've created or multiple workbooks. You can also very easily create a file you send to the auditor. And I call this the audit file. You can create a file for any date range. You could do fiscal periods or actual transaction dates. You can also even be selective on certain types of accounts or even certain parts of your organization. So I'm going to create this file and show you the type of information that can easily be exported in just a second to Excel. And here we go. It's everything. So I've got the account number, the description, the source. I've got the fiscal period. I've got document numbers, so check numbers, invoice numbers, receipt numbers, PO information if you use it, vendor information, and then most importantly, debits and credits, and then projects as well. So really simple to pull the numbers right out to Excel if you need to analyze data. So now, typically, the next area that we look at is purchase orders, and the purchase order module is optional. You can add it if you want. This gives you the ability to enter in the information once and have anything on the purchase orders obviously flow to accounts payable, so you're not having to key in the information twice, but also to those financials so that you can know if funds are already obligated. So this is an option. I would say probably 30% of our customers use purchase orders. It's there if you need it. It will create purchase orders. You can have budget comparisons. You can even have online approvals, so somebody can approve this before you encumber the funds. We do recurring purchase orders as well. This exception report's going to let you know what POs are over budget. You'll also get a warning when you enter them. And you can also print the purchase order. So you'll have a complete audit trail of all the purchase orders, but like I said, it flows to accounts payable. At any point, you could run a report to see, what purchase orders do you have still outstanding. You can see, have you partially liquidated any of these. So you've got a record. You can also easily roll these into the new year or take them off the books before you close your year. So once again, that's a piece that we have. It's an optional piece. You can add it, down the road. Now, accounts payable, this is where you're going to enter in those invoices. And we've got lots of really nice features. One is, let's say you're entering in an invoice and you look up and you need to add that vendor. You can add a vendor on the fly. Notice how it defaults that they're active. You might have those vendors that you don't use that often. You want to make it temporary, or somebody that truly is inactive. The search defaults to the active list. You can keep track of a order from, pay to. We're going to track the 1099 so that it automatically will create the 1099s when they go over that $600 limit. You can have an attachment at the vendor level. Let's say this vendor has a price list or a contract. You can scan and attach it. So it's an electronic filing cabinet for the vendor. We even have an option that you can store the vendor's direct deposit information. So what happens is when you pay this vendor, an email will go out that says, the municipality just paid this invoice. The vendor knows the next day the funds will be in their bank. So it's a really nice feature for those vendors that require to be paid electronically, and I know more and more in the future will. This way you're not having to print forms, and it creates the file that you just send to the bank. We can also very easily record those transactions that are automatically deducted out of your checking. You don't want to do a paper check, but you want to record it. Now, if this vendor happens to be an EFT vendor, it'll automatically check that. So they stay that until you take them off the list. Now, we're going to check. If you're trying to pay the same invoice to the same vendor, you're going to get a warning, you've already paid that. We also have a nice feature that you can say separate check. Let's say this vendor has already sent you 2 invoices, and then on the third one they require it to be a separate check. The system will combine the first 2, but the third one is separate, all in the same check run. So you don't have to trick the system. Now, you can right-click at PO and it brings in the accounting. So you're not having to re-key in the vendor, the GL, the PO amount. So you're just looking at it, and if the PO is for more or less, you can liquidate it down here. Now, on our example, the invoice is $456. Down below is where you distribute it. You can distribute it to unlimited accounts. So the rule is it's got to completely be distributed. If you are doing projects, you can hit projects here. If it is a vendor for a 1099, it'll do the checkbox, but you can deselect certain items if maybe there's services on that invoice. You can also go paperless. This is where you can add an attachment, just like an email, and then whenever you look up this transaction, you can see the invoice. Now, for those in the audience that need to track fixed assets, we do have an integrated module. It captures information as you enter it in through accounts payable, so you're not having to re-key in, what it is, the vendor, the date, the PO. So that option is there. Just like on journals and purchase orders, you can do recurring entries. And let's say we want to pay the phone bill. And on this example, you're going to enter in the invoice, and it's going to assume today. I can override it, and I'm going to say it's a $345 bill. And notice what it did. It allocated it to 4 different accounts, because I pre-told it do it by percentages. You can have your recurring ones be these accounts, different dollar amounts, but it really makes it easy to process those bills that you do every single month. So you just set those up as recurring, and you can have unlimited. So that's where you enter in the payables, and at some point, my guess is you probably have a council meeting. And what you're going to do is you're going to run this report to get approval. And depending on how you want to see this report, you can sort it out. I'm going to sort mine by department. I could override this date, but I'm doing it through this date. And what it did, I've got all my invoices that I've entered in, and I've got when it's due, who it's to, the account number, the balance. I even get a budget comparison. So this is all before I do the check run. Let's say the council has a couple of those they don't want to pay. You'll simply come here and you'll deselect. So it will default all of these, and if I don't want to pay this one or this one, they're still in the system. We're just not paying them right now. I can even partially pay one as well if they only want you to pay part of it, so it will reflect that. So now that I've got my list, I'm going to run this report to let me know how much money do I need to have in all my funds to do the check run. And then I just simply print the checks. For those vendors that are being paid electronically, this is where it creates the file you just send to your bank. It's in the bank's format. If I need to void a check, we've made it easy, and there's an audit trail. You can even set up certain menu options that only certain staff can get to. Maybe you're the only person. If I do void this, I can simply see what's going to get reversed in accounts payable. I can see what's going to get reversed in the GL, and if I hit void, it'll void the transaction. I can also override the period. So if I look up this check, it'll say that it's been voided. So those are things you might do periodically. We do have a lot of reports, unlimited history, so if you've got to run reports on every purchase you've ever made, it's there. You're going to know at the end of the month what have you not paid. You can reprint checks if you need to. We have a check register that you can pull out in a lot of different ways. You can do it by status. You can do it in detailed or summary. And you can even pull that out by fund. Or maybe you want to pull out just your electronic check. So lots of reports, and all of these can go to Word, go to Excel. You can print them. We also have several inquiries. And we'll take a look at this one. If you don't know the vendor, maybe the only thing you know is that the vendor starts with an A, I can bring up all my A's. Or maybe I know the word tree is in there at the end. I can do star tree. So this search brings up all of the checks, and on the right-hand side, the invoice that it paid. I can click on the invoice, and I can see the status of the check. I can see the accounting. I can even see the attachment. So if I want to take a look at this, I just double-click, and it's going to show me the invoice. This is the one that I scanned in. So you can go paperless. So you can attach unlimited documents, but it stays right here. And once again, I'm not going to the filing cabinet. I've got it all right here, so if I've got the vendor on the phone, I can answer any question. And like I said, we've got other inquiries. You can look up any vendor, and you can see every check you've issued. You can drill down to the detail. You can even print this report and send it to the vendor. It's going to show every invoice with the check number and when you paid it. Now, a couple of things in the setup. One thing that we talked about is you can decide on each application, how do you want it to post to the GL? Do you want it to automatically post? Do you want it to post in detail? Most do, because they like to drill down to the source. Other things you might decide, do you want a warning if you're over your budget, or do you want it to completely stop you? You can even turn on electronic signatures, and then you can have maximum amounts. We even have the ability to turn on approvals by dollar amount. Let's say you can enter and pay up to $200, and the other clerk can do up to $500. So that's a feature you can turn on or off whenever you want, and it's all in the setup. So far we've looked at the general ledger, accounts payable, we went into purchase orders, we've looked at budget excellence, we've looked at report excellence. Let's take a look at our point of sale. My guess is you've got a lot of customers that come into City Hall and they want to pay their bills. And this is just like a cash register. You can get rid of that manual receipt log. Let's say somebody walks in and they want to pay their utility bill. They don't know their account number. You can look them up. So I'm going to bring in, let's say, Ace Office Supply. They owe me $143.07. And let's say they're going to pay that, so I'm going to accept it. And at the same time, they want to get a miscellaneous. They want to get some sort of a license. Let's say they're going to get an animal license. And I'm going to accept it. It's going to keep a running total. So you can keep adding. They could pay a court fine, their tax bill, an invoice you've sent them. All of that can handle here. You can even look up by name and bring in all the balances. So if I've got utility accounts at 4 different addresses, I can bring them all in. When I am ready to tender, I hit payment. And you're going to define, what do you accept? Do you accept, cash, check, credit card? You can even have part of it in cash and part of it by check. If they pay more, it's going to make change. So that's going to all reflect on the receipt. It's going to print a receipt. You're going to handle the money once. Here's what's going to happen. When you do post, we're going to send the utility funds to the utility application. On the miscellaneous, we're going to create a journal entry. So if things are being sent to courts and tax billing and license, so it's going to update those individual modules. But once again, you handle the money once. You can reprint any receipt. So if a customer needs to have a reprint, you can look them up if you know their name, the date they came in, the dollar amount, any combination, and you can get to the receipt and it says reprint on it. You can also print out a report for any point in time what you receipted. Let's say you want to know everything you receipted this year. You could say from date to date, or maybe just one day 5 years ago. All the data is there, and you simply decide how do you want it to print. You can do it in receipt number. Receipt type is going to group your checks, your cash together. Subsystem is going to put your utility payments, your court payments, your tax billing. We can even do it by GL account or their account. And so it'll, depending on how you've selected the report, it's going to sort it based on that. But you've got all that history. Now, a couple things on the tables. All those miscellaneous things you define here. So this eliminates the need for that receipt book because we're going to print a receipt and it's going to update the general ledger for the miscellaneous things. So once again, we do have point of sale. Typically payroll, we do have it. I don't cover it in this video, but I do have other videos that will cover payroll. But just so you know, it's tightly integrated. It handles unlimited pay types, deductions, benefits, leave types, and all the accounting. So that is certainly available. We do have a miscellaneous AR if your organization has invoices, outside of your utility bills and tax bills. So it will do statements. It'll age them. Talk briefly about fixed assets. We do have it. We have project accounting as well. And so that will allow you to track costs for the life of the project, and it picks up every dollar spent. So that gives you a high-level overview of the financials. If you'd like to see a live demonstration, certainly give us a call. You can also go to our website at www.assist32.com and see screenshots and reports of just about everything you've seen today. But thank you for listening to the video.